Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. Hopefully, whoever is live streaming with us can hear. Rabbi Hannah Leslie Glazer, Temple Brit Achim. And we welcome you to our alternative Shabbat. We are a very small group here in the synagogue this morning, and I imagine also online. If you are online today, please drop me a line after Shabbat and let me know you were there. rabbi@brithachim.org, rabbi@brithachim.org. So, a couple things that we've got that coincide this morning. This morning is the week of the winter solstice. It is the week of the longest night and the shortest day, the earliest time that Shabbat came in, and that's an important time in the Jewish calendar. Typically, we will mark the solstice through the celebration of Hanukkah, which is also usually meant to happen around the time of the longest night and the shortest days, and lighting lights in the face of that darkness is a big, important piece of the themes of Hanukkah, although we are not especially specific that this has to do with the solstice, but it's in there. It's in there. This certainly was a winter solstice practice before it was Hanukkah. And the rabbis, I'm sure, found resonance between the two practices of honoring the Maccabees and their fight for the temple in Jerusalem and their fight for sovereignty in their indigenous, native, ancestral land, and also whatever solstice practices were happening before that. So we're going to continue along the theme of cultivating light in a dark time. This is not only physically, literally, dark time because of the solstice. It is also a very difficult time spiritually for many people, and we want to recognize that and think about what it means now. I don't know about you, many people struggle with the winter months because of the lack of light, seasonal affective disorder, things like that. Having more darkness during our days can be cozy, and you can cuddle up with a nice movie or a cup of tea or a nice book, and a lot of us do that. We kind of exhibit more hibernating behavior, and we can bless the darkness for that. But there are also impacts of not having as much light. And it does seem like that goes on for quite a while, although the reality is that the shortest day and the longest night is this week, December. And from here on in, the nights get shorter and the days get longer. So we are, in essence, already looking towards greater light. And that's what our spiritual practice today of Shabbat is going to be honoring. So this is going to be layered, we're going to layer on top of that concept also the idea that the morning prayer book has an entire section that deals with light. The morning prayer book has an entire section that deals with light, and it is right after the Baruch Hu, right after the call to worship. And there are several blessings, prayers there that have to do with light, acknowledging the light that God brings into our world, but also the light within us and how we interact with holiness and how that produces light. So it is a special section of the prayer service, and I like to I like to look at it. So the other thing is that section about light is also connected in with creation, which is a theme of Shabbat. It is a theme of the Sabbath. So I'm going to read one of these prayers. If you have your prayer books at home, you can also join me in that. It's on page 109 in our prayer book. And it is Yotzer Or, it's also known as the creation of light, the formation of light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, Holy One, source of all, Yotzer Or uvorei choshech, who forms light and who also created darkness. Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol, who makes peace and who also creates everything. Hameir la'aretz v'ledarim aleha barachamim, you illuminate the world, the earth, and you shine over it with mercy. Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit, and with goodness you renew every single day the acts of creation, the genesis of creation. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, how great are your works, O God. Kulam b'chochma asita, everything you have done, or all of it, is done with wisdom or in wisdom. We're on page 109 in our prayer books. Kulam b'chochma asita, mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha, and the whole world is full of your creations. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, may you be blessed, Adonai our God, and our blessings are the creation of your hands, Vial meori or she'asita, and also of the lights that you have made, Yifaru chasela, may they be glorious. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot, blessed is the Holy One who created, who formed the lights. So taking a look at that prayer on page 109, and the English goes on to 110 a little bit, we're talking about the formation of light. We're talking about the idea of the solstice practice being something where we had the longest night, and now we're going into shorter nights because we've already passed the solstice. And we're also thinking about the themes of Shabbat, which include light. They also include creation. And so wanted to see how this prayer resonates. For you, this is on page 109, and I just read it through and translated it. What are some of the themes here that you see that talk about light and creation? No wrong answer here, just whatever you see. Did you want to share something, Ann?
Light and creation are both a new start, a renewal, refreshing, and that happens day to day in the cycle of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always thought that was a really beautiful aspect of this prayer, saying that creation is renewed every single day. You know, I think many of us think of creation as a one-time act that happened in the world. Certainly, the Greek philosophers believed that that the source of creation put everything into practice. I want to say all Greek philosophers believed this, but this was a strong tenet of Greek philosophy, which Maimonides also picked up, that everything was put into play and then it just went off and did its thing. That creation was a one-time act. But here what we see in our prayer book is that creation is renewed every day. Every day. What would that look like or feel like to you?
We get a new chance every day to aim to be our best selves, to aim to contribute to the preservation of the earth, of our environment. There's always a chance to start again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I like to think of it also as personally, I like to think of it as a new, fresh source of energy to tap into every day. So that if I've dealt with something difficult in the last couple days, that there's fresh energy every day that I can tap into to help me feel whole. But I also love the idea of getting a new start every day. A new start.
You need that renewed energy to get a new start every day.
I also love in this prayer where it says, Kulam b'chochma asita, everything or all of it, all of your works are made with wisdom. So somewhere in there is the idea of, and down at the bottom it also talks about Al me'ori or she'asita, and the lights that you created, yifarucha, you have made them glorious. So there's something about wisdom, about glory, about light, about creation and the renewal of creation. This is a really beautiful passage that we oftentimes just zip through, and we have these periods of these sessions of alternative spirituality for Shabbat, that we can take a look at it. Another thing that I noticed in the passage that you brought up, Anne, is that it says, Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid, and in goodness, that it is for the good that you renew the acts of creation every day. We could see acts of creation as change, right? One could define change as an act of creation. Something new is created, right? We don't always like change. We might not say that's for the good. But this prayer here says that it is for the good. Mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit, that the acts of creation are renewed every day, and it's for the good. And it's for the good. So I just want to ask if there's anything else that you see in there that you thought was interesting. I have one more thing I can add, but wanted to leave it open for a minute.
I see a reflection of ourselves to a degree, because we renew our efforts every day, and hopefully in a good direction.
Yeah, hopefully in a good direction. Yeah. Another thing that I notice also about the Hebrew is that there are two different verbs that come up quite a bit: yotzer or, yotzer, and borei. Yotzer or yatzar is a verb that means to create, and borei is also a verb that means to create. And the way the teacher that I learned this from, Rabbi Mitch Chefetz of Miami, I believe still, he's a Reform rabbi, and he was one of my first teachers. He explained the difference being that borei is the type of creation that only God can do, and yotzer is the kind of creation that also humans can do. we talk about the prayer for the bathroom where we say, Asher Yatzar et Hadam, who created, that we bless God who created humans, and it uses the verb Yatzar, so certainly God can do that kind of creation that Yatzar represents. But in terms of the verb borei, that's only ever used with God. You never see in the Torah or in other places, you never see the verb borei used with humans. So it's interesting to take a look at that phrase, blessed are you, Holy One, source of all, Yotzer Or, who creates, Yatzar creates light, Uvorei Choshech. Right? So what's the difference between Yatzar for light, so the God or humans can create light, but darkness is only something that God can bring?
That's very interesting. If assuming that people are created in the image of God, people have the ability to create, probably in the sense of Yotzer, and people can create light in its broad sense. Light can indicate lead the way, direction. So people are capable of bringing light to the world, although God is the one responsible for darkness. And I'm not sure how to interpret that.
Mm-hmm.
The darkness of the forces of nature or the darkness of evil. And my inclination is to believe that when God creates darkness, it's the physical darkness that comes with lack of sun, but people can create light, like in guidance, Torah, beaming, whatever, while God can only create the physical darkness, or God only can create the physical darkness.
Only God. Yeah, and I'm thinking about that too, even just the physical, right? Yotzer Or, we generate light every day, right? We turn switches and we turn on electricity. We light candles. We can do light pretty well. We've learned over the years. But in terms of creating darkness, to me, that's also a hearkening back to the creation story, where the first thing that was there, Bereshit bara Elohim, right? As God was creating, and it uses the term bara, right? Borei. Mm-hmm. That was there, what was there was darkness. And what was there was darkness. And so, maybe also that the rabbis didn't want to think that we would be creating darkness. The idea of borei is kind of because, the rabbis wrote this, right? This was not this is not anything directly from the Torah. This was a prayer that was written, and it was composed for blessing the daylight in the morning prayer book. So it's interesting that we bless the same God who creates light, and also who generates in a creative sense the darkness. We hold both things at the same time, and that's also quite powerful. And I've talked a bit about how light and darkness oftentimes appear together in Jewish spiritual practice. Certainly the balance of our days. We make a very strong emphasis on the nighttime because it is the beginning of our holidays, is always at night. Some of our holidays are almost always celebrated at night, like Hanukkah. Purim is very much a nighttime celebration as well. Passover, we celebrate at night. We make a real emphasis on being mindful of darkness and being mindful of the absence of light. But that's another idea, and that's another way that one could look at it, right? Is one could think of it as light being something that fills a space and darkness being the absence of it.
Very interesting.
Right? So that if God created that container, and then God and we put light into it, in essence, we don't create that darkness. We create the light or we take away the light. Anyway, some different models of physics and geology, understandings of the world, which, we're not exactly sure what they were going for there. But I think it's interesting to, to consider it. We say this prayer, it's in the Jewish prayer book every single day. And this is a special version of it. Now, actually, Ha'me'ir la'aretz v'ladarim, that is not said every day, but the Yotzer Or line is. The bottom half is a special prayer that's just said on Shabbat, and on weekdays they have a different version, which is not as creation focused.
One thing this prayer says that we see many times in the Siddur is Oseh Shalom Overay et Hakol.
Mm-hmm.
Oseh Shalom, those words are familiar to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's attributing, the prayer is attributing peace or wholeness to God, God having created it, as well as light and dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 So I think we've and then the other thing that that I like to hold, oftentimes our prayers for something are kind of like a suitcase packed with words, and you take all those words together and it forms like a word cloud. You've seen a word cloud?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take all the words together in that word cloud, it means something. It means something that's more three-dimensional than if you just said, "Blessed is God who creates light." There's all these other things that are in there. There's light created with darkness. There's light that is created with peace, Oseh Shalom, and also that is created with everything. And there is mercy, there is goodness, there is creation, there is daily renewal, which is the way we experience light, pretty much, right? Comes back every day. There is greatness, there is wisdom, there is fullness, there is blessing, there is glory. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I think what I'm going to do, our next piece of this practice is going to be, we're going to lead a meditation using this passage. So I'm going to invite you to get comfortable in your seat. And plant feet on the ground if you can. Mine just about barely reached, but and relax your hands and your arms in your lap or by your sides. Feel the seat back underneath you, supporting you and holding you today. And you can just relax and release any tension that may be holding in your back. Just release it into the back of the chair. Let the back of the chair absorb it and let it slide down the chair and fall away. take the shoulders and pull them up towards the ears and then back and down so that the shoulder blades are rotated in towards each other. And the chest, the heart space, is open. I think it's really important to note that this prayer is said as a blessing. It is said after we've had the warm-up part of the service. It is said with the heart open, and it is meant to be offered in that spirit. So we want to take a couple of breaths into that heart space and warm it up a little bit more. See what it feels like as bringing air into the body to just feel the oxygen and all the nutrients and the nourishment that it carries, nurturing and lighting up all the inside of our torso, our chest, our stomach area, our belly, all the way down to our hips. Every time we bring that air in, we also bring in energy. Every breath is also an act of creation that is renewed every time we take fresh breath. So we'll take a moment to wonder at that cycle of life that is built in our concept of creation. We human beings in our world did not have to be created this way, but it is. The light comes back every day. Our breath comes back every minute until it doesn't. But until that point, it is a cycle of life that is constantly renewing within us. Just like every day we get a chance, a fresh start. Every breath can be a new opportunity for connection with spirit, for awe, for appreciation of the glory of the world around us. Let's just feel that cycle of life and light and energy that cycles in and cycles out with our breath. It fills us and then it slowly drains away, taking with it anything that is not needed in our bodies. And you may want to think about if there's anything that might be kicking around in your head right now that might not be needed. Any unnecessary thoughts, you can just kind of put them aside. Like you might put your glasses aside. You go to sleep or take a nap. You can pick them up later. We'll just put them aside for now. And just continuing, breathing in. Admiring and appreciating the light of this space, the spiritual energy that is here. And we can take a moment, there's an invitation here to take a moment to notice, to witness the glory in this world. How glorious the world around us truly is. As a constantly renewing act of creation, or even just any single point along the way, there is glory. And there is light in that glory. When we think of something as glorious, we think of it as beaming light oftentimes. The rabbis certainly had those word connections for sure, because the word glory does appear in this prayer. And so we can think about what aspects of our world are glorious today. And to start a practice of noticing that glory. It's a really wonderful spiritual practice to cultivate through these days of shorter days, longer nights, is to have a spiritual practice that witnesses light in our space. Alongside that glory, there is also wisdom. What does it look like? What do you experience when we put glory and wisdom together?
I would say perhaps understanding. You acknowledge the glory of the world through the eyes of wisdom, and you derive understanding.
Thank you. So the idea of light as illuminating ideas, concepts, understanding in our consciousness, in our brain, in our intellect, in our intelligence. Shine a light on something, sometimes it means that we clarify it so that other people can understand it. So we hold that idea of wisdom, ultimate holy wisdom as well, within this container that this prayer is held in, and that it traveled to us in. We're going to take about 2 minutes of silence from here, just to sit with the different themes that we've discussed. There may be one piece of it in particular that may be calling to you, something that feels important to spend a little more time experiencing or thinking about, picturing, taking in. going to check in with the body and see if there are any areas of the body that could stand to relax. Just allow them to soften into the chair, into your seat. So we're going to keep the eyes closed here if you've got them closed, or if your gaze is downward and soft, you'll want to keep it there, however you've been meditating with us. We're going to have one more piece of the morning prayers on light. It's not in this particular prayer book, but Or Hadash Al Tzion Ta'ir. May there be a new light that you shine on Zion, you being the Holy One. Ta'ir is us speaking directly to God. Or Hadash Al Tzion Ta'ir V'nizkechu Lanu Mehera Lioro. And may we be worthy of receiving that light quickly, soon. Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir, may you shine a new light upon Zion. V'nizkechu lanu, may all of us, everyone, be found worthy of receiving that light soon. Soon. And as I was saying at the introduction, we need all the light we can get in our world these days. One final song that is also not in this prayer book, but I'll just say the words and you can follow along as you're able. Or Zarua La Tzadik. You can practice saying that. Or Zarua La Tzadik. U Yishrei Lev Simcha. Light is streamed before the righteous. The righteous will be blessed with beams of light. Uli Yishrei Lev Simcha, and to the pure of heart. The word Yashar means direct, straight. We choose a word that means focused, perhaps, or ready and available. To receive joy. So we're going to chant that a couple times. And then we're going to have a prayer for healing, a prayer in lieu of Kaddish, and then we'll close. Or zaru ala tzadik ule Yisrael simcha. So you may or may not recognize that that's also a line that shows up in Yom Kippur as we are preparing for Kol Nidre. This is one of the verses that is chanted before Kol Nidre. Or zaru ala tzadik ule Yisrael simcha. 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 Moment of silence to let that sink in. The room now, slowly, gently, as is comfortable for you. We've had our eyes closed for a while now. Say our prayer for healing. We are praying for the following members of our community, our congregation this week. David Frank, Bill Bly, Priscilla Brown, Betsy Grossman, Rhonda Hager, Stu Leibach, Stephen Matzner, Lois Miller, John Rose, Bill Schneider, Lois Snyder, Sharon Stein, Velvel Ben Avraham, and Pete Walsh. Any other names to add? I'm going to add my Uncle John Hilchman. We'll take all of these names that we have mentioned, as well as any others that may be in our hearts. And I'm going to do a simpler healing prayer than what we have in the books. It's Ana Elna Rafa Nala. Ana there be healing of body, mind, and spirit for everyone on our hearts today. And let us say, Amen. Amen. There's a little reading from the section of the Kaddish that includes light. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light, we see. In light, we are seen. The flames dance, and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we also give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. And we are honoring the following yahrzeits in our community this week. William Miller, the father of Scott Cattleman. Arthur Senneman, the father of Susan Peterman. Grace Brennan, the mother of Valerie Scheinbach. William Miller, the husband of Lois Miller and the father of David Miller. Jose Krinker, the grandfather of Josh Saragovi. I. Stephen Levy, the brother of Seth Levy. Max Greenberg, the father of Willa D'Souza. Anna Mazer, the mother of Marvin Mazer. And Audrey Bratt, the mother of Erica Brown. We also want to acknowledge those members of our community who have lost a close loved one within the last 30 days, putting them within the mourning category of Shloshim. Colette Wake lost her aunt, Helen Holliday. That burial was on November 30th. We lost a congregant of ours, Marvin Fuchs, and his funeral was on December 8th. This week we also announced that one of our families, Ann Reutman, lost her mother, Fran Lubbs, and that funeral was just this past Tuesday, December 19th. Another one that hasn't been announced yet, but it will be announced after Shabbat, is that Rosalind Goldie Bernstein was the mother of Cheryl Tepe and the grandmother of Annie Tepe. Died a week ago last Monday, and the funeral was December 16th. As I mentioned, this will be announced to the congregation shortly after Shabbat, but I wanted to make sure we included her in our prayers and send our condolences far and wide to all of these families. We're all in different places right now. So we want to take those names that have been mentioned as well as any others that may be in our hearts. This week is also the secular anniversary of my grandmother's death, the one who's not Jewish. And I like to remember the secular date for her as opposed to the Hebrew date because she wasn't Jewish, and my whole family remembers the secular date. So that was Irma Hilgeman, and the anniversary of her death was 5 days ago. And in lieu of Kaddish, because we don't know who is on our live stream, I'll lead El Male Rachamim, the prayer for the soul. And it may be in here somewhere, but I think I'm just going to lead it. It's typically in Yisker, the Yisker service, if we have it, but I don't think it is. I don't know if we have Yisker here. I don't think we do. So I'll just chant the prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim HaToharim, Kizohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmotem Shehizkarno Hayom, Began Eden Tehei Menuchatam, Ana Bal Harachamim Hastirei, Seter Kanafecha Liolamim, Utzoror Bitzoror HaChaim, Et Nishmotehem, Adonai hu nachalatam, v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkavam, v'nomar Amen. And that wraps up our service. It is 11. Thank you for joining me on this spiritual journey. It's a great experiment. Hopefully, those of us who are live streaming, you've enjoyed it. Please do not forget to write me after Shabbat, rabbi@britachim.org, and let me know if you were on. It's always nice to know who joins us on live stream. So Shabbat Shalom. Happy after solstice Shabbat. Merry Christmas if your family celebrates Christmas. I know mine does. And wish you a wonderful holiday season and a beautiful new year. I will not be here next weekend. I will be taking the week off starting Monday and then returning a day or two after New Year's. And we will have coverage for services and also if there are any pastoral needs, we'll make sure that that information gets communicated to the congregation. All right, so have a wonderful end of 2023, and let's hope that 2024 might be even better. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Are we still on?
We are, because the microphone is still on. So what we will need to do is go and turn off the